Get in, we're going to Disney World. That's right, my husband and I went down to Florida for just 26 hours. Let me show you how it went. Booked our flights at 4 p.m. and by 1 a.m., here we were. We stayed in the cabins at Fort Wilderness for the first time, and oh boy, I may have gotten us a little lost.
Well, there's the cabins right there.
So far away from the lobby. Look, it's a bus stop.
What's that?
Is that a bathroom? Well, let's find out if it's the right place. We eventually made it to reception and we got into our cabin. I was expecting Wilderness Lodge, but okay. We made it to the cabin. The new cabin design is super cute. I love the tiny house. Look at Chip and Dale. Look at him sleeping in his tent. That's Chip and that's Dale up there. 12 hours after we decided to come, we are here. We needed a weekend off. All right, good night. Okay, it is the next morning. We got maybe 5-6 hours of sleep. My husband had to go get me a toothbrush because I forgot my toothbrush. We were running on a few hours of sleep, but that's all right. I had my pneumatic pumps and I was ready to take on the day without a scooter. Here's the outside of the cabin. It's a nice day out, nice and cool. People up there riding horses. The day began with a little drive over to the Transportation and Ticketing Center where we got on the Epcot monorail. Yep, we decided to park hop starting at Epcot. Now, we knew today because I didn't have my scooter, I was going to be a little bit limited in what I would be able to do. Also, we were short on time. So we decided to make the most of it and just focus on indoor rides that we love. Of course, my POTS decided to flare up before we even got there. So we had to start the day at Sunshine Seasons and get some Powerade and some food in me before we decided to go over to Soarin'. The Land Pavilion is my go-to spot when my POTS is flaring. Now, it wasn't very hot over this weekend, but I did use my tachycardic monitor on my Apple Watch, and there's plenty of seating and nice, cool air conditioning in this pavilion that helps me get through a flare. It's also a bonus that Soarin' and Livin' with the Land are two of our favorite rides in Epcot. Now, you might wonder why I didn't just get a scooter. So I had trouble getting a scooter through Scooterbug, and knowing that the scooters at Disney, usually you have to wait in some kind of long queue, and then there's a wait period where you're walking around the park without a device. We decided not to waste the time on that, and we knew that we were probably going to only be in the park for a couple of hours, and it wouldn't be worth our time to be sitting there waiting for someone else to be finished with the scooter. Thankfully, I was able to do the walking this trip. That is not always the case. Thank you for cool weather. This is my favorite thing. We found these shot glasses that are marked as toothpick holders. Come on, Disney. We all know those are shot glasses. Then we headed over to the Coke Experience. Of course, my husband had to get some Beverly, and I enjoyed the soda, Minute Maid from Korea, even though the floor was sticky. At that point, I really started to swell, so we headed into Spaceship Earth. Then we headed over, got some more hydration, and hopped on the monorail. If you didn't know, there is an elevator for any kind of disability that you may have. Filled up my cup with some Powerade, and then we hopped into the car and went over to the Contemporary, where we were going to have dinner at California Grill later. We still had a couple of hours before our dinner reservation, so we hopped back on the monorail again, and it was time to do a little impromptu Magic Kingdom. We didn't have any plans or expectations. We just really wanted to soak in the magical atmosphere. We grabbed some Casey's Corner and got a few beautiful shots of the castle before we headed over to the People Mover. Even though we only went on a handful of rides this weekend, we still got to hit all of our favorite highlights. It was so weird seeing the Astro Orbiter missing. If you could only hit 3 or 4 rides in one day, what would you do? Leave that down in the comments. We rounded out our day in the parks with Happily Ever After behind the castle. That is my ultimate favorite spot for watching the fireworks. Then we walked over to Contemporary, and even though my heart rate was pretty high, I was feeling okay. We had our dinner at California Grill, and let me tell you, this is my favorite restaurant on property. Never a miss for me, at least. I had the strawberry salad. My husband had the replacement for the famous ravioli. For my entree, I had the filet, and my husband had the Wagyu beef. Everything was delicious, excellent. And then for dessert, my husband had the yuzu, and I had the caramel cappuccino cake. This is like a broken down cake. It has different types of mousse with caramel and cappuccino flavors, and this chocolatey crumble that is out of this world. Seriously, best dessert ever. The mixture of textures and flavors, the crunch of those little wafers. I've never had anything better. And then stuffed to the brim, it was time to go back to the hotel and pack. We are all done with the day. I am so full. I feel like my stomach is gonna burst. But I managed to walk over 6 miles today and take 15,000 steps, which is a huge personal best for me. And look at this cute pillow my husband got. It's so cute. And now we have to leave in 6 or 7 hours. So good night. I never stayed at the original cabins at Fort Wilderness, but this new tiny home design is actually really great. They do pack a lot of homes in together, but it is very peaceful, and we were so sad to leave. We had such a great time at Disney for our 26 hours that we spent in it. We are now back home in Boston, and unfortunately, I did really well on the flight, but my POTS kicked in again when we landed, and I could not make it to the car. My husband had to go get the car and bring it around. But that's what happens when you're chronically ill and you push yourself to have fun for a whole day. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.